on non-agenda items. Number 2, SEBA ordinance. This is something we've talked about a little bit in the past. It's my understanding that this is required, that we have to update this by the state.
Correct. So initially, Steve Martin was injured. It's basically about a catastrophic injury in the line of work. A police officer for EMT and that kind of individual. We had an ordinance that actually covered that during the time frame when Dan Hayes was our attorney. And when that went through, basically we followed those guidelines. Those guidelines were changed by the Supreme Court, and actually we're just adopting the new guidelines that we have to go by for better options.
It is in the packet. We're voting on that tonight. If anybody has any additional questions on item number 2, it's kind of straightforward and just needs to be done.
It's basically boilerplate. We have to do it. There's nothing like the dates or the time frames in there aren't even up for discussion.
I'm sorry.
Like it's boilerplate. Like it's 30 days within the action. You gotta let the city know if you are going to file with the SEBA. It's 30 days. Is that
correct?
Boilerplate, like statutory, or is that something
I
changed?
don't think you actually have to let them know in 30 days. You are catastrophically injured during the line of work.
I think that's what it says.
I don't want
I think 30 days.
And we actually followed this new procedure with Steve Martin.
Do we have a motion to recommend this to the council tonight? Mr. Hopkins? Second?
I'll do it.
Mr. Riley? Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, recommendation is approved. Number 3, grocery tax ordinance. That is the thing that you guys, we all got right now, the updated one that is taken from IML, is my understanding.
Correct. This is what I know about.
We've talked about,
It's been changed back, but I can't think of it.
yeah, so Anthony updated it from IML. We've talked about quite a bit of utility needs and things in the past. This has to be done, I believe, by Joel in October. Yeah, has to be done by October. I don't think we should wait that long personally. It's a very interesting situation, as we've talked about, that they can't tell us what this is actually going to be. I think it is in the best interest of the city to adopt this ordinance, to get this on the books. It's been in place by the state for a very long time. It's nothing new. The consumers have been used to this for, I don't want to guess how many years. And then once we get it in place and we're able to see it, audit it correctly, and again, I don't know how the state can't do that and give us that information, we always have the ability to walk it back in any way, shape, or form we would like to.
I have a thought to that.
Mm-hmm.
During the last governor election cycle, they waived the 1% grocery tax for a time period. Were we still getting the same amount of money that we always get during that time period, even though they weren't collecting it?
How long ago was that?
It was the last governor cycle, so 24, 22, I guess.
I'm good. You would probably answer that question.
We were still getting the same amount, then how would they weren't collecting it anymore.
No, that wasn't during COVID. I thought it was during COVID.
Yeah, but it was during the election cycle. That was also election cycle.
It was
21 maybe, or 21, 22.
Because I remember them saying.
Right, because they did increase the gas tax.
But your point is that we could look back and we
still
could see.
Were we still getting paid out the same amount that we would have expected if
I don't
the grocery tax would be?
I don't think you can actually look at that because all during COVID, our sales tax was super high.
Right.
So we wouldn't actually, and you said you can't separate this out. I'm not sure how you can tell what it is.
What you were doing is taking a normal year, subtracting that year they didn't give it to us, and that would give us a benchmark. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could. I mean, we could look that up. I don't.
Or they just match whatever they previously had for us. Which I understand. When they had some sort of formula to compensate for it,
They knew somehow.
They knew something.
Yeah.
Actually, they probably did. They didn't have to, they could do anything.
You understand what I'm saying?
Sure, I understand what you're saying.
They stopped collecting it. Did we get less money? Did we not receive those funds because they stopped collecting? Or did they just guess and give us those funds, the city, give us, the city, the funds that they thought would be collected if they didn't, if it was collected? It's a very powerful way of saying they have to know something. But I guess we could look back, that's before my time on the board. So.
The increase in sales tax at that point in time for COVID was enormous.
Just a thought.
Question. Sure. So, since this came through IML, correct? Has this gone to the courts? And the courts have said, yes, this is legal,
I think
do it this way?
it may not have been through the courts. You're looking at this through the eyes of all of the attorneys in IML provides official service to the cities. I don't know how many municipalities have already enacted. So if we're in a situation, it's not healthy.
Yeah, but I think most of I know a couple of the neighboring municipalities enacted this.
Like, there was a
Just
list
if they voted on it, that's my question, does that make it legal?
Probably not.
I'm sorry.
I don't know
If
if
they
they
voted on it, did that, and they said, yes, we as a,
the state told us, like,
municipalities, Kyle said maybe some other ones neighbor have voted on it, said, yeah, we're
Well,
gonna.
they have a lot of them.
Does that make it legal? We can say, yeah, we want to do something, but does that make it legal? I guess I still feel like this is very
Well,
cloudy.
Okay,
Number variables.
the Illinois Municipal League, and I don't know how many attorneys that went through there, and this went through our attorneys. So I'm not sure how many more are, if it needs to go to court, or if it needs to go through 2 or 3 years of court hearings. You could probably send it through them in there for 10 years.
well, the question I have is what would make it illegal?
Right.
What's the catalyst for that question? That's something that
Because-
I would read
Because
about
the
it.
state,
The state actually told you to do it.
right, the state said, we're going to remove this tax from consumers and you municipalities, if I understand this correctly, you municipalities, if you want to keep the tax, you can keep the tax. But again, this hasn't been voted on. When we did the 1% sales tax for the schools, we had to vote on that went to a public
Well, I
vote.
understand what you're saying.
Actually, though, the state of Illinois has actually been collecting this, and they give you that, they collect it, and they give you the tax.
Right.
So we're going to, the state is still going to collect the tax and still give us the same tax.
But it's not a state tax anymore, it's going to be a local tax.
Okay?
Like they do with sales tax.
Like it is.
It is sales tax.
Just saying,
But
they're just switching.
it's not an increase in sales, it's exactly the sales tax, it's exactly the same thing.
But it's an increase in city government saying we want to increase, we are approving an increase to, this has not been a city tax that we've had before, this will now be a city tax.
It is a state tax,
Correct.
because it's collected in our city.
Correct. But it was
Based on
enacted by the state, and now the state's saying, we're not gonna manage this anymore. It's up to you municipalities.
They do manage it.
The state approved the tax and said, we as a state of Illinois are going to enact this tax, which they did. Then the state said, we are removing this tax from our tax base. But as a state, with the state government said, we are no longer going to have this tax. But you municipalities, if you want it, you can keep it. You guys just have to approve it. And if we're doing that, does this have to go to a vote?
No, it's the same tax.
I mean, and the same thing, now it does not. I mean, are you,
Right.
I guess, are you saying that that's what?
Government municipal leagues.
Or what are you asking? I guess just what I'm.
When we've had tax increases before, it had to go to a vote.
Completely understand. I mean,
And that's where
yeah.
I'm looking at
It's not the same way that was.
Right.
And again, I'm not a lawyer, this was already being done. We're changing who is writing the ordinance up, for sure, but we're not adding a new tax to anyone. The increases in the past we voted on because it was something that didn't exist and now it does exist. So it's a different way that it's being done.
But if we decide, and again, I'm not trying to be, I'm trying to vet this. Because we can say we only want, this is 1%, we only want to do 1/4% or 0.5%, to see what the number is, and then we can increase that back to the full 1% if we want to at a later date.
Because it is gonna be a separate line item that we receive from the state. That's what Natalie has said.
Actually, you are supposed to be able to see it after it's enacted.
That's the information that we get.
Right.
Right, from Natalie and Sarah.
Correct.
Right. There's a separate line item, hey, this is what you get, 1% property tax from the state.
But I guess my question is for the ordinance, or is this something we want to do? I mean, there's so many, if it would be illegal, well, a lot of people missed it, and every other municipality is going to be the same boat as us, so I don't think, my worry is not too high on if it's illegal or not,
I think
we want to do it as a city.
26 municipalities and now state have already adopted this ordinance.
And that's my question. I think that we should do it, see what it is, and then after we can, I just don't know how we can make an informed decision without knowing what the amount of money is. I don't know how the state can't give us that information. It's bananas to me, but that's what we are right now.
I'm afraid that if you decrease it and then you increase it again, back to the 1 or whatever, then that's gonna make people mad.
You never, exactly, once you decrease it, you're never going to increase it. So that's why I would say that we do it the exact same way the state has been doing it. We get a balance on what's going on. Then we say, once you decrease it, it would be a decrease forever. It wouldn't be, we're not gonna keep changing the number back and forth, right?
I have a question. Do we have any idea, I'm sure the state, before they gave us this grocery tax back, they had some kind of administrative fee for handling it. Do we know what that was? Do we know what it will be with this? Because they're not just growing. That seems like be.
That's not something the state will share with you.
Not very transparent, so.
I don't understand.
I don't say here, it's, hey, we're gonna collect it for you, you're not gonna know any of the information, but we're gonna say, hey, trust us, it's right. I don't like that.
They're gonna do the same thing again, and now they're gonna tell us how much it is.
Right, that's a good thing. I am concerned because it does come up that it is even though we were getting the money, basically going to the state and come back and still going to do the same thing, now it will be a line item that it is a city tax. Even though it always technically hasn't, it's just had a long way to get to us. I am concerned that us implementing it, even though it is a 1%, $1 every $100 you spend, is it a necessary tax for us to do and just to give to the city here? That's my concern.
Infrastructure. So we basically redo our streets, 1, 2, maybe 3 streets a year because that's what we can afford. You want to decrease that amount?
Sure.
Well, the problem is we don't know what that amount.
We don't know what it is.
That's my thing about with it. We just need to, in my opinion, we do it because the state has been doing it. We get our control of it to see what this number actually is. And then, like I said, next year, when we're talking about the budget and we say, well, this is a number that the city needs to keep doing street projects, or this isn't that number and we can do away with it, but we have to get control of it and understand what those numbers are before we can make an informed decision on if we want to do it or not.
And it's not gonna be a difference if somebody goes to A for burgers and hundred.
Right, identical to what it was before.
Right.
It's the same. So you're not gonna you're not gonna
December
feel.
31, January 1 is exactly the same.
I just think it's almost an opportunity though to give back to our residents a little bit. Say, hey, you know what? just because everybody else is, doesn't mean we're going to. I know that we use it. And I know that we don't know what the dollar is, if it's 500,000, if it's $50, you have no idea. It's
Me.
It's probably a few bucks for me and myself. I don't know,
I think that's a good thought to keep in mind. When we set water rates, we just do it that way. Like, not for electricity rates, we don't control that. That's
Well,
the water rates.
Actually, you can't transfer water out of.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when we set that rate,
because we have excess funds here, this is where I'm going at from here on this. Is I thought it'd be a good idea because I remember hearing when I was running still, bringing up the idea that we do have a number of residents that have trouble paying their utilities. Now, I don't want to get down the weeds and be like, who's to help? We don't help people that have trouble. I like the idea of taking whatever this is, our goal, we get paid it, and it goes into the, basically, a credit on utility bills.
Can't do that.
Can't do that?
Nope. It goes into general fund, which is your infrastructure and your roads and that.
Well, even before that, though, the only thing I would say is if the idea would be to do something different with the money, and I'm not sure of the how, then we have to pass this.
Sure. Well, that's where I'm at. I would like to see something come back that's more, a little more to the resident. I know that roads are infrastructure is to the residents, but it's indirectly. And I think that it would be nice to see something that goes a little more to residents there. Like Gabe said, the utility, that credit couldn't happen. I don't know the realities of that either, but it's something that it goes back to residents directly instead of we put it into a general fund where we are, we're paid to have a street with it or something like that. Just idea there. I just like the idea of giving that or taking away a little stress from the residents of Waterloo as opposed to, even though it's already there, we all understand this is going away. It's election time. Why it's going away? I think we could take advantage of that and say, hey.
So I would propose a thought. So how do we repair our streets? You're gonna get away.
Well, again, we go to the residents. How long is our budget each year?
I took the Flower Street project out of the budget this year because it wasn't that money. That was $620,000. If I took it out of the budget, because there isn't enough money.
Sure.
Well, so which money are going to give back to the residents?
I'm spitballing here. I'm new here. So.
But to your point, I don't mind ever talking about things like that and finding out what we can do. But for the ordinance meeting, we don't know what those numbers are unless we do this ordinance.
But I would say to your point, if in fact you would like to do that, that's a budget cycle. When you want to do that. That's something.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. We approve this ordinance, we figure out what that number is, and then next year in May, we can decide how much we're dealing with and where, because I agree with what you're saying, I have no problem looking into that, but if we don't approve the ordinance to begin with, then none of it, then we don't get off the block anyway. Okay.
No one should be able to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just bananas that they can't give us those numbers, but we've asked them multiple times, so we just need to figure out what we're dealing with before we can make decisions on how we're going to use it in the future.
And this goes into effect, it shouldn't pass it, when is it going into effect?
January 1 next year.
January 1.
We've got a little bit of time, that's why it's not on the agenda tonight, I wanted to talk about it. Everybody sees it. And then we can have a conversation on, but I also didn't want to wait until October when we had to do it. I mean, it's something that I want to have done in the nearer future than waiting until the last second.
The one thing I think that we've had conversations about is we're very lucky in that we have people shop at our stores that come from far outside of our municipality. So we are benefiting from the taxes generated from non-households that are here. And that is the one thing I do like about this.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's good to.
Well, everybody's seen it. I think we had a nice conversation, but like I said, it's not like we're voting on it tonight. So if there's nothing else on this right now, we'll move on to the next thing. Let's okay with everybody.
Thanks for bringing this up.
That is just comments. Anyone comments on anything that wasn't on the agenda? Or I guess all? All right. Motion made to adjourn. Mr. Hopkins? I'll second. Mr. Riley? All in favor?
Aye.
7:25.